Imagine you're wandering through a marina, not the shiny Instagram marina where every boat looks like it just rolled out of a Scandinavian furniture catalog. I mean a real marina, the kind where the docks creak, the halyards clatter like wind chimes made by pirates, and somewhere there's a guy fixing a diesel while drinking a coffee that's roughly the viscosity of motor oil. And tucked in among the fiberglass condos and charter fleet refugees is something interesting. A Morgan 382. And if you're a cruising sailor, this boat has a bit of a reputation. Not the loud look at me reputation of some sort of racing machine. No, the Morgan 382 has the reputation of a quiet, competent friend who doesn't say much but somehow always shows up with exactly the tool that you need. This, my friends, is a Morgan. I found this boat for sale at Portside Yacht Sales. I'll leave a link in the description if you want to go see it. First, the company behind it, Morgan Yachts. Morgan was founded by Charlie Morgan, a man who could best be described as the sort of person who treated sailboats the way Elon Musk treats rockets. Build them, race them, redesign them, then build them again a little bit faster. The company started in St. Petersburg, Florida in the mid-60s and quickly became one of the big American fiberglass boat builders of that era. These were the days when boatyards were experimenting with fiberglass the way Silicon Valley experiments with AI today. Some of it's brilliant, some of it, let's say it's character building. Morgan ended up selling the company to Beatrice Foods in 1968, which sounds odd, until you remember the 70s were that era when conglomerates bought absolutely anything and everything. Breakfast cereal companies owned sailboat manufacturers. Insurance companies owned movie studios. Chrysler was making sailboats. It was chaos back then. Eventually, the Morgan brand ended up in the hands of Catalina Yachts, who bought the company in '84 and used Morgan's Largo, Florida factory as their East Coast production base. But before Catalina got involved, Morgan built a whole series of cruising boats that became quietly beloved by sailors. And one of the best examples of that era is the 382. Now, this boat was designed by Ted Brewer. If Charlie Morgan was the entrepreneurial rocket builder, Ted Brewer was the thoughtful engineer quietly sketching beautiful hull shapes late at night. Brewer designed over 270 boats during his career and became famous for practical cruising designs that actually work in real life, by real people actually using them, not the fantasy world of marina cocktails and dockside bragging rights or sales brochures. Think of Brewer designs like a good pair of hiking boots. They're not flashy, but when you've been walking all day, you're very glad you chose them. The Morgan 382 was built between '77 and '82, and they produced about 300 of them, which is actually a pretty healthy production run for a cruising boat of this size. And it means today, there's still quite a few of them floating around on the used market. LOA is 38 feet, 4 inches with a beam of 12. So right away you can see this is not one of those modern floating apartments with the beam of a basketball court. It's a relatively moderate hull shape. It'll still fit in slips. The draft is about 5 feet with a fin keel and skeg-hung rudder. That combination is kind of like the Toyota Land Cruiser of keel arrangements. Not the absolute fastest configuration possible, but it's strong and predictable and perfectly happy crossing through rough terrain, or in this case, rough seas. Displacement comes in around 17,000 pounds, and ballast is 6,800 of those pounds, and it's lead, giving you a ballast ratio of about 40%, just where we want it in cruising sailboat land. That's a nice, healthy number. It means the boat has some stiffness. When the wind pipes up, the 382 doesn't immediately flop onto its ear like one of those goats that falls down when you scare them. The sail area to displacement ratio is 16:2, which places it right in that sweet cruising zone. It's not a slug by any means, but it's also not a racehorse. The comfort ratio is 29, which sailors use as a rough indicator of how gently a boat moves through the waves, and 29 suggests the 382 should have a pretty civilized motion offshore. Not quite a floating couch, but certainly not a jackhammer. The capsize screening number is 1.87, which falls well below the commonly cited offshore guideline of 2.0. Now, before someone goes off in the comments and starts yelling, yes, the capsize screening formula is not the 10 commandments of naval architecture, but it does give a rough idea that this boat was designed with offshore stability in mind. Hull speed works out to about 7.4, although some owners report seeing higher numbers surfing down waves. In fact, one magazine test reported the 383 hitting 9.6 knots in the Chesapeake Bay. And that's pretty impressive considering the boat was never designed to win any races. It was designed to carry people and their stuff across the water without any drama. Construction-wise, the 382 is solid fiberglass below the waterline with cored topsides and deck. And Morgan experimented with foam coring during this period, which is fairly progressive for the time. Now, there's also a wonderfully strange feature that Morgan owners refer to as torpedo tubes. These are the cockpit drain channels that run through the hull sides. And yes, the name makes it sound like the boat is secretly a submarine. Sadly, they don't fire actual torpedoes at jet skis. They just drain water. The engine originally installed was the Perkins 4108 diesel. This engine has a reputation of being one of the most durable marine diesels ever built. If properly maintained, a 4108 will outlive the average house cat by several geological eras. Fuel capacity was about 40 gallons and water was 55, so the boat was clearly designed for some real cruising rather than just day sailing and being back in the marina at night. Inside the 382 is classic 1970s cruising yacht, and when I say classic, I mean wood everywhere. Opening the companionway is like stepping into a gentleman's lounge that decided to go sailing. Teak bulkheads, warm cabinetry, loads of storage. It's cozy in the way modern minimalist interiors simply can't replicate. The layout typically includes a forward V-berth, a roomy saloon in the middle, and a proper nav station, and then an aft quarter berth. In other words, the kind of layout sailors designed before Instagram convinced everyone that boats should resemble airport lounges. Now let's talk about the market right now, because here's where things get interesting. Morgan 382s typically show up for somewhere between $20,000 and $45,000. So yes, you can buy a 38-foot offshore-capable cruising sailboat for roughly the price of a used pickup truck. Now, obviously conditions vary widely. These are old boats. Some of these boats have been lovingly maintained. Others have lived through 3 owners, 2 hurricanes, and a questionable DIY electrical system involving extension cords and electrical tape. But the basic hull and design still represent a lot of boat for your hard-earned dollars. Owners groups for the Morgan 382 are actually quite active. The biggest hub is the Morgan 38 Owners Forum, which is thousands of posts covering everything from rig tuning to diesel rebuilds to philosophical debates about anchor selection. If you want to know literally anything about these boats, there's a very good chance someone on that forum has already taken it apart and written a 14-paragraph explanation about it. Now, of course, no boat is perfect, and the 382 owners have identified a few common issues. One is fuel tank corrosion, which is fairly typical for boats of this age. Another is rudder design. Some of the early 382s had a slightly smaller rudder compared with later versions of the boat, and some owners have actually upgraded to the bigger style. There are also reports of water tank leaks, occasional bulkhead issues near the head, and the usual potential for hull blistering and stuff like that depending on how well the boat was maintained over the decades. But the interesting thing is that when you read through the owners' forums, the tone is surprisingly positive. This is not a boat surrounded by horror stories. Instead, the 382 seems to have earned a reputation as a solid, honest cruising platform, which brings us to the final question. Who is this boat for today? The 382 is perfect for someone who wants a serious cruising boat without spending serious cruising boat money. It's ideal for a cruising couple, planning coastal voyages, extended trips, or even a little bit of offshore work. For the folks who don't mind paying less cash, but making up for it with elbow grease and lost sleep. It's also a great platform for sailors who enjoy upgrading systems and gradually turning an older boat into their own customized expedition machine. But if you want a giant cockpit lounge and twin helms and swim platform the size of a tennis court, this probably isn't your boat. This is an old school, honest-to-goodness cruiser, the sailing equivalent of an old Jeep. Simple, tough, and a little quirky, and capable of taking you to very interesting places. And the best part, you can still buy one for the price of a used car. And speaking of used cars, did you see this article about the Alberg 37 used boat review? If you're in the market for a used boat and want something ocean going, battle tested, and more capable than you'll probably ever need, but also need it to be under 100 grand, Carl Alberg's boats will end up on your radar for sure. While the most famous of his designs is probably the 30, this is its big brother and it deserves attention too. This is a great article if you have a few minutes. I'll leave a link in the description for you. If you like sailboat videos, don't forget to give this one a thumbs up. It really helps us out, but also it lets YouTube know that you're into this stuff, so it'll show you more of it. How cool is that? And hit subscribe so I can see you again next time.